everyone. Welcome to episode 492 of Get Paid for Your Pet. Today, my guest on the show is Lisa Stotelmyre. She's the founder of Yellow Brick Road Homes. And that is a reference to, what was it?
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, of course. I think I watched that movie, movie. It's a movie, right?
Yeah,
30
it's a
years
movie
ago or
now.
something.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I watched that.
Yeah. Nostalgia. Yep.
That's right.
The journey never ends though. So that's the moral of the story. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the topic for today is how do we maximize ROI for our homeowners? So Lisa runs a management company, a short-term rental management company out of Lake Arrowhead in California. She's got between 15 and 18 units, depending on how you count.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what she's really good at is really maximizing the ROI for her homeowners, which is going to be really important going into the future as more short-term rental management companies are becoming more professional. So the competition for homeowners is increasing, just as the competition for us as hosts is increasing as well. So Lisa, I'm excited to dive into it. You've also one of our Legends X students. You went through the program. When did you go for the program?
Oh gosh. I graduated. I guess it was the end of last year.
End of last year, right? So that was that was the second class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you shared some. You're in the Rising Star community now, and you shared some pretty amazing, inspirational things like a couple of weeks ago, where you were talking about like purchasing a company that has like 100 units.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're supposed to have a meeting next week on that.
All right, cool.
We'll see.
So we'll have to check back with you, and that would be a pretty big move.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like the tail wagging the dog, I think. But the opportunity's there, so let's have
hey,
at it.
You gotta think big sometimes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today. Let's start with your your story. Like, how did you get involved in Airbnb short-term rentals?
So, well, actually, I had a Colorado property that I was renting long-term back in, gosh, this was probably back when Airbnb just became itself and or became known. And I just decided to try it out on that property, and I loved it because my whole thing is I'm an investor, but I also like to use my properties. Like my properties or our company's properties now are in the mountains. And I just absolutely love being in the mountains. I escaped from Orange County. I get to go breathe for a while and just enjoy the energy of the mountains. So the Airbnb allowed me to enjoy my property, not only have an investment property. And that to me was, revolutionary, right? Like that was like,
Yep.
Oh my God, this is phenomenal. So that's how that came about. And then in California, just had another rental property, sold it in Orange County. And then the only property I could afford that came up was in Lake Arrowhead. It was a property in 2016, late 2016. It went on the market for $55,000. And I saw it and I immediately grabbed Michael, my partner at the time. And I said, we need to go because this is the only thing I can afford. And we need to go buy it right now. And so we drove up the mountain and met with the real estate agent. It was a 350 square foot property on like 14,000 square foot lot. And Michael was in construction. So it was built in 1926, owned by Bugsy Siegel, back in the day, and was falling down literally. Like the window was the only thing holding it up in the back. Seriously. So I said, you need to walk around the house really fast and see if we could buy this. Because I could see the other people walking up the street. I knew there was just going to be so many investors. So he walked around and he was just like, you could tell, just like really nervous. And he's just like, how many? I'm like, look, we got to like make a decision like right now. And he's like, all righty then. Okay. So we bought it. And that was the first vacation rental that happened here in Arrowhead. And then from there, we just kind of kept seeing them and buying them, renovating them, and you know, yeah. So that's how it started.
So you bought it for $55,000 in 2016.
Yep.
So now it's worth about 5 million.
I wish. No. Well, now it's actually a duplex because we had to tear down the addition that was on the back because it was dangerous. So then we added a whole nother house on the back. So now it's 2 houses. And I think the last appraisal came in somewhere around 400,000, but yeah, it's been a journey with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Still making a decent profit there. Well, what year did you start with Airbnb?
I would say back in probably 2010, maybe, when the market crashed, actually, with the Colorado property. Yeah, because rents, people were just really nervous about everything. And, and it seemed like Airbnb was just taking off. So, yeah. So, yeah.
So it's interesting. You and I actually got involved in Airbnb around the same time for the exact same reason.
Oh, wow.
Because that's what I did too. Like I was renting out my apartment in Amsterdam, and I just quit my finance job, and I wanted to travel. But I didn't want to rent it out long term because I was like, just like you said, like it's like, oh, if I'm back in Amsterdam, I want to stay at my own place.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So how do I do that? And that's how I got involved in Airbnb. So that's cool. Like we both had a similar start.
Yeah.
So yeah, walk us through like how did you go from owning those couple properties and putting them on Airbnb to actually managing units for other people?
So I'm also a real estate agent here, and people started to learn that I had vacation rentals, and I'm excited about it. So I just naturally get excited about it talking to people, and I think in the back of their minds, it's just something that maybe a lot of other people really would like to do, but just don't know how. So I sold a couple homes that people definitely wanted to Airbnb, and so I helped them buy the home and then transition it into the short-term rental space. So some of it was that, some of it was just neighbors, just very organically. I didn't have any plan really to actually do this, but people just started to ask about it, and I felt like I could handle it after hiring a couple of VAs and building out the team. I ended up, I have 6 properties, and that was just too much for me to handle on my own. So I had to build out a team anyway. And I felt like, well, if we're doing this, we might as well, I can't just keep buying houses forever. So I might as well expand in a different way. And as long as I felt like the owner and I were sort of in some synergy, it was okay. We would offer to do it. And that's how we're at now. Yeah. With owners. Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of people who are in that spot where they own, like, let's say 2, 3, 4 units. And they're also getting requests, from their personal network of like, hey, I've got a home too. Can you manage that for me? A lot of people are hesitant to make that switch from the ownership model to management, because now you have to deal with the owners, right? Now you have the owners looking over your shoulder and asking questions, and that's that's not something that everybody enjoys. How was that transition for you?
It was pretty natural for me because I did have some synergy with the initial owners that I took on. Since then, I have had some that were more challenging than others. And it's been a roller coaster because you don't know what you're going to get, really. I mean, you can talk to somebody and go through the process and, and stuff, but you really don't know that person until you start working with them. And, I have one particular owner that is pretty challenging, in terms of just really want to be hands-on. Mm-hmm. And that threw me because all my other owners were, either they're out of town, and they just weren't even like, we just did our thing, and it was great. But then all of a sudden I had a challenge with this new one that, just wanted to really have everything hands-on, dictating what the rates would be, and just without a lot of knowledge of the industry, just wanting to, almost do our job, so that's been a huge challenge,
Yeah.
learning experience, like how to deal with that. But yeah, I finally had to let the calendar, I had to actually push out the rates that this person was wanting me to push out, even though I knew it wasn't right. And just let the house sit empty for a month. I mean,
So it was higher
it was
than
way
what you.
high, like double.
Yeah.
Yeah, way high. And so I thought, well, that should fix the problem, but it actually really didn't fix the problem. So then there were some more underlying things that we had to fix. So it's just an ongoing thing, but you have to really get your mojo on and really stand up for what you believe is right. And I've learned that out of this. It's like I would never do that again for a month, because I was so thrown off by what should I do. I just waited, and I shouldn't have. I should have just said, no, this is, explain the strategies, explain more, and just put it down and just say, look, I have to be successful for you. I can't not do my job. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't, it doesn't solve anything. So I think you just have to get your I don't know what I want to say, like, just get your story straight about what you're doing, why you're doing it, why it works, and just stick to that and be really confident,
Mhm.
because people will respect that more than
Yeah.
them just waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of times it's like the setting the expectations from the beginning, and it's
Mhm.
like once you accept something, then it's hard to go back on it.
Yeah.
But if you set the stage from the get-go, then it's,
Yeah.
people typically tend to
Yeah.
respect it.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, what are some other complications, or what are some other, not complications, but what are some things that people should take into account, thinking about, transitioning from ownership to managing properties for other people other than dealing with the owners?
Uh, wow. I think it's just one of the tough things is really having the mindset to pay attention to the other owners, right? Because if you've had your own properties for so long, you kind of have that dialed in like clockwork, right? You just kind of know what to do. You gravitate there because it's comfortable. You're probably dealing with maintenance issues on your properties, right? You're somewhat still involved if you're not completely discontinuing that. So I think it's learning how to split your time and really be committed and focused on these owners in a very structured way, right? You've got to send out owner reports on time. Like I still don't have ever gotten an owner report myself, right? Like hopefully it's in my future, but you have to do things in a certain structured way for them to feel comfortable that you have some structure. And in the beginning, you don't have any structure because you're just doing it for yourself. So I think creating the structure to where people feel comfortable that this is something you're experienced doing, even though you are the whole business side of it, right? You may not have developed yet, so you've got to do that quickly, I think, and
Hmm.
really focus on it, so that you don't appear to be scattered or or not sure, or things are coming out at different times, or and what are you measuring your success on? That was huge for us, right? Because if you don't know, then they don't know either,
Hmm.
right? They're just looking at the calendar and the bookings, but I mean, there's so much more to it, right? There's reviews, there's are you able to use your home when you want to use your home? There's it's we've had to create that success criteria and then measure ourselves to it, and then
Hmm.
communicate that to them so that they appreciate that and they're not
Right.
making up their own criteria,
Got it.
right? Because if they do, then you don't know what you're being measured on, and at the end of the
Yep.
day, you know, you could lose it, right? If
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
if you're not on the same page. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. There could be a situation where you're looking at your criteria and you're thinking, wow, I'm really knocking it out of the park for this owner, versus the owner is thinking like, hey, what's happening? Like this is not good enough, right? So what
Yeah.
are those? Yeah, what are your criteria? Like what are those criteria?
So one of them is enjoyment of your home, because the people that we are servicing, at least now, are also using the home as a second home. So that, I feel, is important, even if they say it may not be. If they're going to the property, it's important, which they
Hmm.
are doing, right? So, that means, like, when they get there, is it clean? Do they feel like a guest? Do they feel like they feel like it's up to where it should be when they arrive? Are they able to book it themselves on a calendar? Can they go at the last minute? Do they have any restrictions in terms of that? Like, are they free to pretty much use it transparently, and you're not having to have a big drama about it, almost, like, can they enjoy their home?
Hmm.
The second one would be guest reviews, because we are in the business. So our guests really enjoying your home. And that's a two-piece thing, because part of that has to do with us and how we manage it, but it also has to do with them and how they keep up the home. Are they doing things that we're asking them to do to be able to get higher ratings? So we want to have a focus on that. Then the third one is ROI, the financial side. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, if they're not making the money they want to make, it's really going to be a problem. So those three things we care about.
So you allow your owners to stay at their properties whenever they want?
Yep. Yep. We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
that's interesting.
they don't abuse it. We were worried about that, but yeah, we really haven't had an issue, because they want to make the money. I mean, it's
Yeah.
their second home. So at the end of the day, they want to make money off it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it depends on the mindset of the owner, right? Some owners are like
Yeah.
very investment ROI focused,
Yeah.
versus others are like, you know, they're more thinking of like, hey, I just me staying there is the highest priority, and like any money I make, that's an extra bonus. Obviously, for a manager like yourself, it's better to work with the first owner type.
Yeah.
um Okay. So you're talking about ROI as one of your criteria. Like what do you do to really maximize that ROI for your owners?
So, couple things. First of all, we analyze the competition, right? Because you got to know what's happening out there in the market. And then you got to try to be, in my opinion, you got to be significantly better than that. That's our goal, right? Is
Hmm.
because they can hire anybody, to do average, but we want to be better than that. So I think knowing what's going on out there, knowing some of the issues in the community, just being really knowledgeable about what's going on and sharing that with owners. So I try to be sort of a voice of, for example, if just recently the regulations changed for San Bernardino County. They changed significantly. So I learned about that immediately. I'm posting in Slack. Our owners are in Slack. We have our own Slack channels for them. So I'm posting in there about what those updates are, what they mean to them. Just being a little different than I think what a typical management company might do. And then there's the side about improvements, right? So always be improving, like I try to really drill that in. And that's a little tough one, because you got to be careful of, oh, she always wants me to spend money kind of thing, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the thing. Got to be conscious of the money that somebody's spending. Like, for example, we just had one owner, their AC went out. So I wouldn't be talking to them right now about, about improvements, but on a regular basis, I'm reviewing the reviews that are under 5 stars. So we have a actual report we develop that comes out for me quarterly. and actually I have somebody else handling this now, but originally this is how we developed it, was a report that comes at under 5 stars. And so we're only reviewing those reviews and then making a short list of what those things are. And that's our action list for the next month. So we do that monthly. We meet with the owners monthly. We go over that list and and just have a discussion, like it's almost a brainstorming thing, right? Like,
Mhm.
how do we, if we had 2 comments about the house is hot, right? Like, okay, well, what are we going to, what are we going to do? Like, we adding AC, we adding ceiling fans, or what are we going to do? Or the backyard, there's something wrong with the backyard. Well, are we going to, like, it's almost helping them figure out where it's best to spend the money that they do have. Right. And then going from there. So it's a kind of a natural conversation, but a focus on that, because
Mhm.
they want to improve too. They don't want to be not improving. And then I had another thought about what that next thing would be. I think I lost it though. Anyway.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious, like when you sit down with these owners and you say like, hey, listen, like we had some guests complain about the heat. We need an air conditioner, right?
Yeah.
How do you communicate to the owner like how much that the ROI that they can get from that? Do you actually show them like, hey, okay, look, this air conditioner costs $1,500, but we're going to be able to increase our rates by X%, so you're going to make your money back in 1 or 2 years? Is that kind of how you communicate it, or what's your process
Well,
there?
actually, it hasn't had to even go there, because it helps when you have reviews that are giving you, a 2 or 3 star review because you don't have AC, right? So that one tends to be more simple. It's like nobody
Mhm.
wants to they know the impact of reviews, right? They know it means, less bookings. It's not even about rate. It's just about getting the house booked. So I think if you have reviews behind you that are stating certain things, it's an easier argument than if you're coming at it from just, hey, I was at your house and I noticed that, this. I've had owners though that have wanted to have those conversations. They're the ones initiating it. They're going,
Mhm.
hey, what should we do? We budgeted this much for this year. What should we do, in your opinion, to get the most out of it? And that's
Yeah,
the best, because they're
yeah,
asking you, right? Yeah, that's the best place to be.
and that's and
The
that's
other
where you sorry that's why you can add a lot of value as a manager, right? Because like we were talking about this before we started recording, where it's like in the certain rental space, it's not so clear like what the ROI is on different types of investments, right? And like when
right.
you're selling homes or you're doing long-term rentals, it's a bit more standardized almost.
Yeah.
What an amenity is gonna do to the rent, monthly rental price.
Yeah.
And short-term rentals, like it's a bit more complicated.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I just met with a potential new owner who they have this panoramic, incredible view of the valley. Like, they're sitting on the edge of a cliff with this incredible, incredible view. And I was just blown away. And but the thing is all the money was spent on the inside of the house. So the outside, they literally had like maybe one chair like on the deck that was overlooking this incredible, view,
Hmm.
and like an old broken down picnic bench on the other deck, and the grill was like tucked back on the side of the house. And I was just like, no, 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 you gotta, this is what we have to do. Like, we have to have like comfy, really cool like outdoor furniture. We got to have like, maybe a couple rocking chairs by the bedroom deck. We got to get a table from the front and move that grill. Like, we had a whole discussion about it. And then I got a text like 2 days later saying, hey, Lisa, we have a certain amount of money. We just want to make sure, you think that this is money well spent on this stuff. And I just absolutely, I was like, the
Interesting.
outside
Yeah.
spaces are just like so important. I mean, ultimately it's their decision, right? But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
your experience, you don't really have to dive too deep into the numbers to
Mm-mm.
kind of show them. It's more of like, hey, this
Mm.
is this is going to be a good investment. Um, you know, it's kind of more advising them on where to put their money.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody really push me for numbers yet.
Mm.
I'll probably get that owner.
Hopefully they don't listen to this podcast.
Right. That's right.
How
That's
about
right.
a hot tub on that
I was
that
really, I was, I was
terrace?
really, I was really leery about hot tubs. But I went out and got one for the 10-acre property up in Crestline because it's away, like there's absolutely no neighbors, like no possible disruption. And it's been good. I mean, other than expensive, to heat,
Mm.
but it's been a success from a amenity standpoint as far as guests go,
Yeah.
just because where the location is. And I just fear, bothering neighbors with, like, there's been a lot of talk here about that, people get in the hot tub and there's 8 people in
Mhm.
there and it's kind of a party. So I'm just
Yeah.
careful. I think in the right space, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm just thinking because I stayed a couple months ago. I stayed at this property just at like an hour and a half outside of Panama City, and I paid like $300 a night for
Yeah.
this apartment. And the reason that we paid that much is because it had a hot tub with like a view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the other homes in that area, you could get them for $100 a night,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
didn't have the hot tub with the view. And so
Yeah.
I was just like I was just looking on Airbnb, and I'm just like, damn, like we're only going there for 2 nights. It's a
Yeah.
special occasion. It's
Yeah.
like I want that view. Like I
Yeah.
just want to sit in the hot tub, open up a couple bottles of wine and just
Yeah.
enjoy that view.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't care if I have to pay $200 a night extra for that. And that
Yeah.
just kind of made me think. I was like, wow, it's really it can those type of investments can go a long way if
Hmm.
it's the right spot. And
Yeah.
also depending on the market, if everybody has a hot tub, then that
Yeah.
trick is not working, right? But
Right.
in this particular area, this was literally the only home with a hot tub.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
I guess that's also something to think of is not just looking at the home in itself, but also looking at the other homes and looking at what amenities do those homes have, right?
Yep.
My place in Colombia, for example, I remember as I stayed in this is in Cali, right? And when I came down there like 5 or 6 years ago, I couldn't find a place with like decent AC and like strong Wi-Fi. It's very, very difficult to find a place like that. So I was like, if I buy something here and I just make sure I have fast Wi-Fi and air conditioning, then no one's competing with me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so what are some other learning lessons? I mean, you're at 15 to 18 units. What are some other learning lessons of going from just a couple units that you had as a owner to now having that larger portfolio?
Uh, Gosh, I guess the importance of having VAs. Um, you
Yeah.
just, it's just, and I feel like they're, without them, it just wouldn't be feasible, so really getting that dialed in, I think, is super important. Um, in the transition, I think just seeing yourself in a different role, maybe, because you're going from homeowner on steroids to, you know someone leading a company, because all of a sudden we have to have an inventory person on staff, right? We have to have an accounting staff, we have to have guest relations staff, we have to have a guest prep, like we have 5 of those. So all of a sudden you're running a company, you're not just homeowner on steroids anymore. So I think that's really tough, because you have to learn how to delegate and you have to get the right people. And that's a trial and
Mm.
error thing. At least it was for us. I tend to hire very organically, people that I know
Mhm.
first. And then sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. I'm trying to really get your philosophy in my head about hire slow, fire fast, but somehow I've always been the opposite. So yeah, that was tough for me, to it still is tough for
Yeah.
me, to to really go through a process to hire and
Yeah.
really understand who you're hiring, because these roles are not defined,
Yeah.
right? You're,
Yeah. 100%.
yeah, you're trying to define as you go and draw an org chart that, you tear up the next day because it didn't work and you're hiring somebody else. And, it's just,
Yeah.
I think that's hard. Yeah. It's hard to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been there, we've been there in our business where it's like you just know that you need some help and you just
Yeah.
literally look around and you see
Yeah.
someone and like, hey, can you help? you know,
Yeah.
typically is not doesn't turn out to be the best person for the role. But
Yeah.
let me ask you this: like, why did you join the Legends X program?
Yeah, because I knew I was really wanting to connect with people in the community. I think when Eric started, he was doing the Airbnb Profit Club. I might have had a different name at the time, but I think I was one of the first 500 people that joined his Facebook group. And then that naturally evolved into the Legends X program. And at that time, I was prime, right? I was exhausted. I was just, head to coast, to the
Mm,
max. So I needed to do something, yeah, it was not sustainable. So that came along at the right time for me.
yeah. How many units were you managing when you were in the tactical spot?
I was probably up to five of my own.
Five. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you've grown a lot since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What was like the most important step for you during the program of getting out of the hectic host spot?
Um, well, I think getting the right team, right? So really focusing on that, because yeah, that without it, I mean, you're just constantly going to be in it. And also now I'm at the point where my challenge is really I've gotten 9 toes out. And the last toe, it's just really tough to extract yourself with, because, people just think of you as part of the operation and you have all the answers all the time. And this last week, I had to send a Slack message back. It was kind of short and, I hope it wasn't rude, but my comment was, what would you do in this situation? Because they were asking me, what do I do? And I said, well, what do you think we need to do here? I'm saying I'm not trying to be difficult, but I need you guys to be able to do this yourself, because I'm
Hmm.
literally pulling myself out of Slack pretty soon. Like,
Yeah.
and it was okay. She's like, okay, well, this is what I'm gonna do. And I'm like, go for it,
Yeah.
but that transition is hard because you're used
Yeah.
to just finding out the answers all day,
Hmm.
and how do you make that transition of just not answering, it's hard.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 There's a little bit of trust, a little bit of faith.
Yeah.
But also I think that's a good process of going through a phase where you just like before you give an answer, like asking your team members, like what would you do?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good training process.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it has to flip at some point, right? Where they're comfortable and you're comfortable. And I don't know, there's no book written on that, but how do you
Yeah.
do that? But yeah,
How
that's
many
difficult.
what's your team look like right now? Like how many people are in your team?
We have 2.5 guest relations, so 2 VAs and then one sort of admin. She works half-time, guest relations, and then one inventory person, just part-time, but she also does our housekeeping scheduling. And
Hmm.
then we've got 5 housekeepers, one accounts payable person that's part-time. We just hired another one to pull in all the stuff that we're doing sort of with different people. We have 4 accounting people all doing different things. So now we're focusing on that and just having one bookkeeper. And then we're going to go to Simplify for
Hmm.
our accounting side. And then I'll have, I hired another guy to do owner relations. So he's going to get involved in the owner reports and how they get created and dealing with the owners and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Yeah. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Really exciting to hear that you've been able to go from about 5 units to now 15 to 18. What's
yeah.
your goal? What's your end goal? I mean, this is something that we talk about Lenses X, is like, where do you actually want to take your company? Like,
Yeah, so I want my company to be self-sufficient, meaning that I want to be able to go travel around and stay at Airbnbs and really understand about what those folks are going through and help other people. Like I want
mhm.
to be more in a consulting role. Um, and I don't know whether that means, my company still exists and it's, just operating, or whether it means we sell in a couple years, and I can go off and do something else. A lot of our team members right now are like retirement age, pre-retirement, retirement age, other than our VAs. So, it's, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens in the next couple of years. But I think for 2 years, we'll be growing and trying to be our best we can be in the next 2 years, and then make a decision after that. But
Right.
that's,
Either get yourself out of it, turn it into cash cow, or sell the business.
yeah, yeah,
Got
yeah,
it.
yeah. So
And then you're gonna, what's that?
can I ask you a question?
Well, I'm supposed to be the person
Okay,
asking the
go
questions, no?
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Just kidding. All right, one question, and then we'll wrap up.
Well, yeah, so I'm curious about your free wild, and I'll tell you why. Because part of making the owners the happiest and making our business the best we can be is making the properties the best they can be, in my opinion. Like really focusing on what's the highest and best use of this property and how can it be unique, and how can it, be the $300 property versus the $100 property. So I was just curious how your concept developed for Free Wild. Like, what was your inspiration?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. I mean, honest. I'll be honest. Like, most of the vision for this comes from Eric, right? My business partner. But what I think is really cool about the concept of Free Wild is that we're we're looking to create something that really doesn't exist,
Yeah, yeah,
right? With Free Wild, it's not just that we're, I mean, what we're trying to do is we're trying to acquire um properties in nature where people can go to disconnect, right?
yeah,
Because nowadays everyone's like going crazy with their mobile devices, and people people want a place where they can just disconnect from their mobile devices and connect with nature. But at the same time, we're also recognizing that you still need to be online sometimes if you have to. Like, to get the best guest avatar is always yourself, in my opinion, right? So
mhm,
if I look at myself, and this applies to Eric as well, is like, we both love going to nature. I love scuba diving, kite surfing. Like, I love anything that has to do with nature. We're going to go skiing this year. I love being in the mountains and, on the beaches and everything. But at the same time, we're running two businesses.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So, like, I gotta be online sometimes,
yeah,
right? So that's
yeah,
that's kind of like the idea of like, okay, let's create an experience where people can disconnect, and we stimulate that, right? We put board
yeah,
games and campfires, and just
yeah,
like bring back the the real, like, the connection with your friends and your family, or maybe even with other people that are staying on the property,
yeah,
right? Because we want to build a community, right? Where, what, Burning Man, when people go to Burning Man, they're
yeah,
burners. Like,
yeah,
we want people to say they go to a free wild, and they're like, and they meet somebody at a bar, and they're like, oh yeah, I went to this free wild property, and like, oh, you're a free wilder. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, that sense of community. I mean, that to me
yeah,
is exciting,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
and going back to like the disconnecting, um, but at the same time having access to
yeah,
fast internet if you need it. So that's kind of
yeah,
the idea of like, we're stimulating people to go back to just old school, spending quality time with each other.
yeah,
But at the same time, like, if you do have to work for like an hour or two, we'll have
yeah,
like a desk with fast internet and everything you need to get the work done.
yeah, yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
the idea of free wild, where it's like you can either be free or you're wild, right? Like you can be
Okay.
free to work, or you can be wild and sit at the campfire and just tell stories and leave your phone, leave your phone untouched for like a few hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
mean, to me,
it's a
yeah, I mean,
creative. Yeah.
like that to me is exciting because I feel like that's something that's a powerful experience that I think if people experience that, they're gonna really like relate to it,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Just as people relate to like Burning Man, and just how like everybody who goes to Burning Man like immediately has a connection, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you
Yeah.
know, like, oh, you've been to Burning Man as well, like that means like we're similar, right?
Yeah.
That's to create a brand that's that specific and that strong, that it helps people connect.
Yeah.
To me, that's something that I'm willing to get up at 6 in the morning and put in a 14-hour workday for a
Absolutely.
number of
Yeah.
years, if we
Yeah.
can make that happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Yes, I
Hope that
agree.
answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, like the back of the Bugsy house, is now, it has one of those foldable doors that the whole back wall, it just folds open, and, with the huge deck with trees. And so you feel like you're in the forest, even though you're not. So, I mean, I agree. Like that kind of stuff gets you super excited because there's nothing else like it. And when
Hmm.
people say that in a review, like it's just, I don't know, it feels great. You
Yeah, for
accomplish
sure.
you accomplish something for somebody that they couldn't find really anywhere else. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Lisa, before we let you go, let the listeners know where they can find you. As you know,
Mhm.
as somebody, you're in Lake Arrowhead, right,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
California. So if people want to stay at one of your properties, or if somebody's listening to the podcast and potentially wants to partner with you on a
Okay.
property.
Yeah. Yeah. So our Facebook page is Yellow Brick Road Homes Plus, and you can always reach me at email or you might give my phone number or email. Jasper, what's
Whatever
best?
you want.
All right. Phone number 562-900-8132. And email Lisa Marie at ybrhomesplus.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. Been a pleasure talking to you. Appreciate you being part of our Legends X and now Rising Star program.
Thank
Hope
you,
you're
Jasper.
gonna make it to the Legend States and we can welcome you at one of our masterminds in the future.
Oh, that'd be great.
And
Yeah,
if you once you're ready to start traveling, and let me know, because
I will.
I got some cool
I
places for
will.
you to
I have to learn.
go.
I have to learn how to do a podcast. So if
That's
you're on,
right.
I'll call you.
All right. Well, if you
All right.
start your own podcast, then hopefully you will invite me to be a guest.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
Lisa, thank you so much. And to the listeners, thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And we did open up applications for class 4 of Legends X. So if you feel like you are a hectic host and you're overwhelmed in your business and you want to, just like Lisa, make it to the Rising Star and hopefully Legend States, go ahead and check out our website at strlegends.com/x. Class starts August 22nd. So we got about 3 or 4 weeks or so. With that said, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.